got a flight, nigga can't even see me. I'm way out of here, I'm too far in the sky. Heard me, it's ash ready to drop my ash. Bitch so pretty, look better than Cassie. Puffin' on Zooters and she calling me daddy.
Welcome back to the Upper Echelon channel. I want you to get comfortable, kick your feet up, kick your shoes off, get something to drink, get something to smoke, whatever it is that you do, and sit back as I navigate through the life and the death of legendary, iconic, prolific activist, actor, artist, and rapper Tupac Amaru Shakur. As most of you guys know, an arrest was made in Tupac's murder September of 2023. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Before we get into that, I really want to talk about his life before I get into his death. I want to talk about how influential this guy was. A lot of people looked at him as just a gangster rapper, but Tupac was far more than just a rapper. Tupac had a very, very interesting life. He was one of the top selling artists of all times. He embodied the 1990s gangster rap aesthetic in life and in death, really. And he's become an icon symbolizing the ghetto struggle and the black experience. Tupac began his career as a rebel with a cause to articulate the still relevant trials and injustices endured by black people. Now, the boundaries between his art and his life became very blurred because he began to face a lot of legal struggles and legal problems and faced jail time quite a few times during his life. On his fourth album, All Eyes on Me, he totally leaned into the thug lifestyle. That was actually the last album that Tupac would live to see released, because unfortunately on September 7th of 1996, at 25 years old, he was gunned down in Las Vegas, Nevada, and he died 6 days later after that, which I find ironic now that I'm saying it and I'm thinking about it. Tupac was killed in September of 1996, and his killer was actually arrested and indicted September of 2023. It's funny how the world works. Now, I'm actually kind of surprised at how many people don't know that Tupac was his real name. However, he wasn't born with that name. Tupac was born with the name Lassane Parrish Crooks in June of 1971 to his mother, Afeni Shakur. She changed his name to Tupac Amaru Shakur after a Peruvian revolutionary who was killed by the Spanish. She said that she named him that because she wanted him to have the name of a revolutionary and live the life of a revolutionary, which is crazy to me. That blows my mind. And she wanted him to live as the indigenous people of the world. She wanted him to understand and know as he grew up that he wasn't just a part of a neighborhood, but that he was also part of a culture. And Tupac's mom wasn't nothing to play with, y'all. When Tupac was born in 1971, his mom was actually a political activist during that time and a member of the Black Party, the Black Panther Party. She was actually arrested in 1969 for allegedly planning coordinated attacks on police stations and offices in New York City. And then she became pregnant with Tupac while she was out on bail. She was acquitted in 1971 after she defended herself in court, y'all. They have such like Tupac's mama wasn't nothing to play with. We're not going to go too much into his mama, but she wasn't nothing to play with. I know you guys know that iconic song, Dear Mama. He really respected his mother, and he knew that she was a fighter, and that's where he got a lot of his personality from.
I wish that my son was here and that he could go and lie down in my bed and come out of my room and say, Mom, what'd you cook? I miss his being. He was my son, and I miss him as my baby, my boy, who I loved, respected, appreciated. He was my friend. He called me up in the middle of the night after he done had a hot date and tell me who he had a hot date with, and what he did, and how excited. And I said, Tupac, why do you think? I miss that. I miss interacting with that human being, that perfect being, that excited, lovable, really magnificent spirit, I miss him. I miss him. I can't pick one thing. I miss him. I miss my son every day a little bit more. But I thank God every day for every second that he was here. And I feel I don't want to ask for too much, to ask for more than I was supposed to have. I thank God for every day of those 25 years.
The strength that this woman embodied blows my mind. It really does. The pain that she endured from losing her son is unimaginable, and the strength that she displayed during those times is honorable. And it shows why Tupac became as great as he did, because he had such a strong woman to raise him. This is Tupac's biological father. Pac didn't really have a relationship with his father. I know that he was out of his life by the age of 5 years old, and he lost all contact with Afeni when Tupac was 5 years old. From what I've read and what I've researched, Tupac actually thought his father was dead for years, until he reconnected with him at the age of 23 years old. Now, this is a man that took some roles in Tupac's life as a father figure. He considered him to be a stepfather for a small amount of time. He was the father of Tupac's half-sister. His name was Amaru Shakur, which is where Tupac got his surname from. Like I stated before, Tupac's name was changed when he was 1 year old to Tupac Amaru, and he adopted the last name Shakur, which was from this gentleman here, his at the time stepfather. I think it's important to note that, like I said, Tupac's mom was a really, really dynamic woman. However, if we're going to tell the story, we got to tell it good, bad, ugly, and pretty. And unfortunately, around like in the 1980s, in the mid 1980s, while she was working as a paralegal in New York City, she did unfortunately develop a really bad crack cocaine habit, and it caused the family to have to struggle for money. They were living off welfare. She couldn't really keep a job due to her addiction, and that didn't make Tupac's life any better, especially considering the fact that he's being raised at this point by a single mother, because the relationship between Matulu and Afeni did not last. So he's being raised by a single mother who is addicted to crack cocaine. They're struggling financially, and on top of that, he doesn't have a father figure, which makes the fact that Tupac lived to create such a legacy and become so successful, so dynamic, because of where he came from. And I think that's what makes Tupac such an enigma and so interesting to so many people, because he lived a very, very statistical lifestyle, and he was able to raise out of that and become something great. Now, in the midst of her cocaine addiction, Afeni ended up uprooting her family and relocating from East Harlem, New York, to Baltimore, Maryland. Again, she was still dealing with her crack cocaine addiction. They were still dealing with financial issues and poverty. Now, while in Baltimore, that's where Tupac ended up enrolling in the Baltimore School for the Arts, which is a really prestigious school now, and it was at the time as well. And he even was quoted saying it was the freest he ever felt. Now, this is actually where Pac ended up meeting Jada Pinkett. She was also a student at the Baltimore School of Arts. And this is kind of like where their little story began. Now, I know a lot of people got their opinion about Jada. We're not going to get too deep into Jada, because I don't want to make it about her. This is about Pac. However, from the research that I've done, from the things that I've seen over the years, there's really no proof and no evidence that Tupac and Jada were ever really like a couple or romantically involved at all. The only evidence that I've seen is that they were really good friends and they had known each other for years. I know that he did write poems about her, and I know she also had a cameo in one of his videos, Strictly for My Niggas. From my understanding, they were just really good friends. If they were secretly in love with each other, or something like that, that's never really been officially documented. So to my understanding, they were just really good friends, and they continued their friendship up until his untimely demise. That was funny. I wanted to include that clip. That was like a little home video that Tupac and Jada did back when they were in school. So yeah, they was really cool. They was in my opinion like best friends. Then also I want to throw something in there. You know, a lot of people see Tupac as like this thug and this gangster rapper, but when he first came out, he was really all about positivity, and he was really an articulate kid.
High school, and I'm 17 years old.
Okay. Do you like being 17?
And it's like 17 is such a weird age. It's such a in the middle age. You're not 18 yet, and you're older than 16. So. But I like it. It's nice. It's like a learning stage for me.
Do you wish you could be 18 and when you get some more rights?
Well, 18 will bring lots of responsibilities that I don't want, but it'll bring respect that I feel like that's the only way I can get it. You know, I try to be as mature as I can be and demand it wherever I can get it. But 18 is like, you're an adult. You like today when I had to sign the release form, I felt so bad because I couldn't sign it myself. I had to go and get my mother's and all that. But 18 it's just society's way of saying that you're ready. But 17, like I think I'm ready now, as ready as I'm gonna be in this world. But so it's okay. I guess 17 is all right.
Do you think that you should be given more responsibilities, or that you have much more value than adults place on you because of your age?
Well, the way that my mother brought me up is no lies, no, total truth. Everything is real in society. You know, everything. If something's going on wrong in the house, I know everything. So it was like I was given the responsibility before I wanted it, and so now I can't really differentiate what great responsibility is because I've had it for so long. You know, so she taught me how to be ready for it. And so that's good. And I think it's good because I know that, and it's taught me that when you get out there, the responsibility is staggering. And I'm ready. I'm going to be a little more ready than someone who's grown up in Disney World, you know, with Santa Claus is coming. And so, you know.
Now, that was an interview that Pac had in high school. As you can see, he was a very articulate kid. And he didn't always have that gangster persona. In that interview, I think really what he was saying was that he had to grow up too fast. And I think that was his way of just saying he never really had a chance to experience like a real childhood. Now, Tupac's tenure at the Baltimore School of the Arts was kind of abruptly interrupted due to the fact that Tupac's mother, Afeni, wanted to uproot the family again and relocate this time to Marin City, California. Now, she wanted to do this because the area that they lived in Baltimore, was kind of a rough area, and she wanted to move them into a better environment. But keep in mind, she was still dealing with her crack cocaine addiction during this time. And it seemed to just be getting worse and worse. So when they got to Marin City, California, things weren't really any better. And her behavior started getting more and more bizarre, more and more outlandish as her addiction started to become worse and worse. This led to her and her son, despite the fact that they had a good relationship, and ended up really affecting their relationship, and they ended up falling out. And this was around his teen years. I want to say maybe 17 or 18. Now, remember that clip that I just played of Tupac when he was in high school? He was speaking very highly of his mother. However, during that time, his mother was actually still battling with the crack cocaine addiction. You got to keep that in mind, guys. So this was a very pivotal time for Tupac between the ages of 17 and 18, because this was around the time where he met Layla Steinberg, and that's the lady that's pictured here on the screen. Layla eventually became his first manager. Now, he met Layla while he was in her writing workshop. The name of the workshop was the Microphone Sessions. It was located in Oakland, in the Oakland Bay area. So that's how they met. And like during this time, he's 17, 18-year-old boy in the ghetto. He didn't have a mom at the time that was, doing what she needed to do due to her addiction, and they weren't getting along at the time. He didn't have a father. figure in his life at the time. So he really needed an older person who was a good example that he could lean on. And not only that, but he still was, trying to explore some of the talents that he picked up while he was at the Baltimore School of the Arts. And he still wanted to explore that. And Layla really helped him explore that. She, like I said, eventually became his manager, and for quite some time continued to be a mentor for Tupac. So she was a very positive force in his life during that time. Now, it seemed like Pac made the right decision by making Layla his manager, because she eventually was able to get him in front of music manager Antron Gregory. And Antron eventually got him a gig in 1990 as a roadie and a backup dancer for the hip-hop group Digital Underground. Now, I want y'all to take a minute and look at something, right? Do you remember the clip from when he was in high school versus this picture of him and Layla with the thug-like tattoos? His image is slowly but surely starting to change. Now, this is a photo with him and Antron. You can just tell the difference in his demeanor. He does start to change, and I know that's a part of getting older, but you can tell that after the falling out that he had with his mom, and after he started gaining some independence, and he started discovering his talent, his demeanor, his attitude did start to change. Pac was not like this. Pac was not, in my opinion, a natural born gangster, or he didn't naturally have that gangster persona. This is something that was built upon over the next several years. Now, remember, the video of him in high school in that interview was him at 17. Pac passed away at 25. So it was only a matter of maybe 6 or 7 years that Pac started to, whether you want to call it an evolution or whatever you want to call it, it was only a matter of 6 or 7 years that these drastic changes in his attitude and personality took place. Now, this is a picture of him and Antron Gregory. Now, Antron eventually became Pac's manager. Now, Antron decided to be Pac's manager, and Pac accepted. Because, like I said, Antron did have him as a roadie and a backup dancer for Digital Underground. But when they saw that Tupac had talent, after he basically made a feature on one of the songs on Digital Underground's album in 1991, Antron saw something in him and thought that he could possibly become a solo artist. And that's when they started working on his album Tupacalypse Now. That was Tupac's first debut album as a solo artist, and it proved to be very successful. Now, I wish I could have found the interview that Afeni did, but I couldn't find it. But I can remember an interview where she said, like, when Tupac, around this time where he was working with Digital Underground and really breaking out into his own, she had like no idea how big Pac was getting ready to be. Like, she didn't know that he was getting ready to be famous. She didn't really know how serious he was taking his music. She didn't even know that he was, releasing an album and none of that. So she was totally clueless. But during this time, she was more so working on her sobriety. So in 1991, she ended up getting clean and sober and ended up moving back to New York City around that time. And then also herself and Tupac, once she got clean, ended up reconciling, and they remained very close and developed a very close bond until the time that he passed away. Now, this is the cover art for Tupacalypse Now. I say it was a successful album only because it's a legendary album, and it has some legendary songs that people will never forget. But when it really first came out, it was successful for him because he was a brand new artist entering into the mainstream. But it really only sold like 500,000 copies. But it had some really legendary songs that ended up becoming staples in the hip hop community, such as Brenda's Got a Baby and Soldier Story. Now, this is also around the time where Pac started really having like a lot of legal troubles. Like, crazy stuff was happening to Tupac, like left and right. In 1992, when he was still in Marin City, California, he was attacked by some kids in the area. So he pulled out his pistol, but as he was pulling his gun out, he dropped it during the attack. Somebody else during the attack picked it up. The gun ended up getting fired, and a 6-year-old bystander was unfortunately hit by that bullet and passed away. Now Tupac wasn't charged for the child's death. However, he was really upset by it and inconsolable due to that death. In 1995, the child's family brought a civil case against Tupac. However, it was settled outside of court by an unnamed record company, which I believe was Death Row Records, in which they ended up offering that family between $300,000 and $500,000. So he never ended up having to go to court for that situation. Now, that incident with the 6-year-old child happened in August of 1992. Now, it wasn't settled out of court until 1995. However, before it was ever even settled in 1993, Tupac was in some more stuff. So in October of 93, Tupac shot and wounded 2 white off-duty police officers in Atlanta, one in the abdomen and one in the buttocks after an altercation. But the charges were dropped after it came out in court that the police officers had been drinking. They initiated the incident and that one of the officers had actually threatened Tupac with a stolen gun. Now, honestly, all the way up until Tupac's death, he faced a lot of legal issues. I mean, honestly, from 1992 all the way up until 1995, 96, he was dealing with a lot of legal issues. But one of the things that I would say is a pivotal moment in his life and in his career is due to those legal issues and due to the situation where he had to shoot those 2 police officers, and it turned out that they were actually threatening him and he was simply defending himself. The case really illustrated the misrepresentation of black men in America and the attitude of police during that time towards black men in America, which is what he spoke a lot about in his music. He was being portrayed in the media during the time when he was back and forth to court as a gangster with bad behavior, a lawless individual. But what really happened was he was simply defending himself. And that moment where he was vindicated was really a pivotal moment, not just in his career, but in the black community as well. Now, don't misunderstand me. Tupac was no angel. I'm not trying to paint him to be like some angel and the system was against him, because he did his stuff too. Now, I don't know if you all know this, but Tupac was actually supposed to be in Menace to Society. But he actually ended up going to jail for 15 days in 1994 for assaulting the movie director Allen Hughes. And Allen Hughes ended up firing him off of the set for being disruptive. Now, those 15 days for assaulting Allen Hughes wasn't nothing compared to what he faced in the following year, 1995, when he was sentenced between 1.5 to 4.5 years in jail for sexually abusing a woman. And, you know, of course, he always maintained his innocence, that he never really did that.
Hi, Tupac. How you doing? Can you tell me how you doing today?
Well, I just had to listen to the prosecution's closing argument, and it was just so far from the truth that it really just has me drained at the end of the day. But I'm leaving it in the hands of the jury. I'm learning a lot about people's innermost fears in this trial, because it's not even about my trial no more. It's just about loud rap music, tattoo having thugs. It's not even about me no more. It's about, you know, some nightmare that these people having.
She's talking about thug life and all that, trying to...
He's definitely guilty. Anybody with thug life tattooed on their stomach is guilty. What type of reasoning is that? You know what I'm saying? We got different backgrounds. We come from 2 different places. Just because I look different than her doesn't mean that I'm a sodomizer or a raper. They've said it in the... I can't understand why it's this close. They talking about there's no evidence that I ever sodomized her, even though you put that all over the paper. And every time they take a quote out of this courtroom, they take a quote from out of her mouth, which is, you know, the stuff to put me in jail. It's nothing that's been true. I just want print the facts so everybody can sort it out. My life is ruined because nobody has a chance to get the facts.
And the fact is that there was no semen found
semen found, no forcible entry, no entry into the anal, no nothing, none of that. You know,
no fingerprints on the
no
gun.
fingerprints on the guns. You know what I'm saying? The only time ever there was an act of sodomy, she admitted she did it to me. I should be, putting charges on this girl who sodomized me on the floor of a dance club. Why am I in court? You know what I'm saying? Get my life ripped apart. But I'm here. I'm gonna go through it just to show that I have faith in the American system. But for me to have faith in the American system, these juries and everybody else has to, play the same role and to keep an open mind.
Wait, when he said that she sodomized him on the dance floor, talk about she should be in jail for something. I'm done. Tupac was a fool.
Convicted. My whole life has been turned around. I lost every job. I lost everything, every opportunity. I can't get buy cars, can't get rent, can't get none of that. But I'm still a survivor. I'm still coming to court, still smiling, still signing autographs. But soon I'm gonna go crazy. You know what I'm saying? And it's up to the world. America eats its babies. No matter what y'all think about me, I'm still your child. You know what I'm saying? You can't just turn me off like that.
I just want to say, man, Pac had a way with words, man. He really had a way with his words where, like, he was just captivating. Like, he would say things so casually, but the things that he would say would be so deep. When he said, America eats its babies, you can't just turn me off like that. I'm still your child. That means, America, you made me. You birthed me. You're the reason I am this way. You caused me to do the things that I had to do. And now that I've done them, you want to throw me away. But the way that he said it was so like cold, the way he said it. And he was so deep, he was so intelligent, he was so smart that he didn't even realize, I don't think, that some of the things he was saying was so profound. Now, Tupac was eventually charged for the sexual assault of that young lady who was a fan of his. However, he continued to maintain his innocence. Although in an interview that he did with Vibe magazine, he did admit that he felt like during that young lady's sexual assault, he was present during the time, and he felt that he did have a responsibility to protect her against others, but he didn't show up for her like he should have. Now, while Tupac was in prison on rape charges, he was visited during that time by Suge Knight, who is the notorious head of Death Row Records. Suge Knight offered to post the $1.3 million bail Tupac needed to be released pending his appeal. The condition was that Tupac signed on to Death Row Records. And if you ask me, I feel like he was signing a contract with the devil. I believe that when he met Suge Knight, this really made... I believe that Tupac would be alive today if he never met Suge Knight. That's just my belief. He was released from prison that he was serving... the prison that he was serving his term at in New York in 1995 in October. And that's when he really started glorifying the outlaw, America's Most Wanted type of lifestyle for Death Row Records. But even though in the midst of him, and that's why I feel like the whole gangster thing was really a persona. I feel like after he did the movie Juice is when he really just took on that persona of just being a gangster, because in the midst of him giving the media that gangster persona, he was still financing at the time an at-risk youth center, bankrolling the South Central sports team. He was setting up a telephone helpline for young people with problems. So he was still working in the community in the midst of all of this footage of him spitting at the police leaving court, throwing up the middle finger and all of this. I really feel like after he signed with Suge Knight, he knew that he had to portray a certain image to the media. Now, after he signed with Suge Knight and Death Row Records, that's when he released the double-length album All Eyes on Me, which came out February of 1996. Again, 1996 is the year of his untimely demise. So it wasn't long before he met Suge Knight before he ended up passing away. On that album, All Eyes on Me, it was really just a celebration of being a thug, a celebration of social consciousness in favor of the gangster. Now, the first single that was released on the album was produced by hitmaker Dr. Dre, which was California Love. do 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 do, which ended up I had to do it, y'all, being number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. And it still remains to this day as one of Tupac's best known songs. Also on that same album, All Eyes on Me was like most of his hits that most people know. That's how you know the album was a hit at the time. What else was on the album? How Do You Want It? How do you feel? Give it up. That was on there too. And that song also topped the chart. Within 2 months of the release, All Eyes on Me had been certified 5 times double platinum, and it will eventually become diamond certified, reaching more than 10 million combined albums and streams. Now, a lot of people like to argue the fact that, you got your people that love Tupac, you got your people that say that Tupac was overrated. If you haven't already guessed, I'm a Tupac fan. So I definitely don't think he was overrated. I think that his life was definitely stolen from him before he was able to show us more of his work. So what we got so far? So far we went over the fact his first album was Tupac Lives. His second album was California Love, produced by Suge Knight. Now, before Tupac was able to release his third album, he became a target. In November of 1994, he was shot multiple times in the lobby of Manhattan recording studio Quad by 2 young assailants. Tupac believed that his rival Biggie Smalls during the time was behind that shooting. Now, Biggie always denied that he ever knew anything about that incident. Now, in 2021, a New York prisoner named Dexter Isaac was serving a life sentence for an unrelated crime. He didn't have anything to do with that incident. However, he claimed that the music executive, James Henchman Roseman, paid him to steal from Tupac and that he shot the rapper during the robbery. Despite Biggie saying that he had nothing to do with it, Pac still believed that Biggie had something to do with him getting shot. So in June of 1996, he ended up releasing a diss track called Hit 'Em Up, aimed at Biggie Smalls and his label, Bad Boy Records, whose head at the time was Sean P. Diddy Combs. The song really caused a lot of tension between East Coast and West Coast, which caused the beef between the two sides of the country. In the song, Tupac also was coming at Lil' Kim, Junior Mafia, Prodigy from the group Mobb Deep. Tupac and Biggie's rivalry was really like the most famous rivalry and the ugliest beef in the history of hip-hop. Now, everybody knows that during this time, Biggie and Faith Evans had a thing going on. They was in a relationship and had a really public relationship, and everybody knew they were together. Tupac went out of his way on several occasions to taunt Biggie, basically insinuating that he had sexual relationships with her.
Once you got that much love in the studio, hey, it take a while to get it down on wax. So me and her took a while. Faith, my homegirl.
Tupac and Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight taunted Faith in front of MTV cameras, implying she and Tupac were intimately involved.
I just want to send a shout out to Faith. Hey girl, Faith and Bad Boy Records.
So yeah, that was just a clip of him and Suge Knight clowning around, basically taunting Biggie Smalls, insinuating that he had sexual relations with Faith Evans. Some people believe it to be true, some people don't. I don't know. Either or could be true. You know what's crazy to me is the diss track Hit 'Em Up by Tupac seemed to like precede his death, and the ensuing conspiracy theories that came afterwards. Just the lyrics, grab your Glocks when you see Tupac, call the cops when you see Tupac, who shot me, but your punks didn't finish, now you about to feel the wrath of a menace. I mean, like, so the lyrics are just bone-chillingly coincidental. 3 months after the release of the diss track Hit 'Em Up, Tupac was murdered in cold blood. 6 months after the murder of Tupac, Biggie Smalls was also killed. Up until recently, neither murder had been solved. September of this year, 2023, it was discovered that a gentleman named Keefe D aka Dwayne Davis, is the one that pulled the trigger and is responsible for the death of Tupac Shakur. Now, Tupac was shot September 7th of 1996. He died 6 days later after that. So he died on September 13th, if I'm not mistaken, of 1996. Keefe D was arrested September 13th of 2023. So that is crazy how the universe works. This dude was literally arrested on 23 years to the day that the man was killed. God is a comedian. This dude is probably the world's dumbest criminal though, because the guy was caught due to his own big ass mouth. The dude hasn't stopped running his mouth about the incident since it happened. He is essentially the reason that he was caught. If he would not have been going on all of these different interviews, nobody would probably ever know what happened to Tupac. Now, Tupac's shooting stems from a conflict between two gangs based in Compton, California. Everybody knows the Crips and the Bloods. So Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight were actually in Las Vegas to attend a Mike Tyson boxing match at the MGM Grand Hotel. That's also an event that this guy here, Keefe D, and his nephew Orlando Anderson attended. After the match, the members of the Death Row Records, Tupac and Suge Knight included, saw Anderson near an elevator inside the hotel. They approached him and they began kicking and punching him. They basically jumped him. There is hotel footage and surveillance footage of that altercation. So, as you can see, it's kind of grainy, but this is where Tupac and his crew, Suge Knight included, were basically jumping Orlando by the elevator. Caused a bit of a ruckus. But this is the footage. This is a really recent photo of Keefe D the day that he was arrested, so I thought I would insert that. So basically, after the altercation, both of the crews, Orlando Anderson's crew and Death Row Records, including Tupac and Suge Knight, they left the MGM, and then they went to a post-fight party at a nightclub. Now, when Keefe D was alerted that his nephew Orlando was jumped by Death Row Records, he then began to devise a plan to basically ambush Suge Knight and Tupac. So he secured a weapon. He got the famous white Cadillac that was spotted at the scene. And he basically pulled up on Suge Knight and Tupac, drove alongside of their black BMW, and fired shots into the BMW, striking Tupac Shakur 4 times. Now, essentially, this big dummy got himself caught from running his big mouth. Like I said, he literally hasn't stopped doing interviews since the incident went down. I think the dude just liked the attention. Honestly, I think the dude was somewhat jealous of Tupac, if you ask me. Like I said, he's the reason that he's been caught. He placed himself at the crime. In 1998, he did an interview with BET, and he said he was in the front seat of the car when the shots were fired. However, he was saying that he is not the one that pulled the trigger. Essentially, it was discovered that he is the one that pulled the trigger, and he is the one that actually took Tupac's life. Check this interview out where this dummy basically told on himself in a recent interview with DJ Vlad. Shout out to DJ Vlad, because DJ Vlad really essentially solved this crime 4 years ago. People already knew that Keefe D did it. He's been running his mouth for years. Check this interview out.
In an interview, Mike Tyson, who was close friends with Tupac, said that he wishes he had 5 minutes in the room with Tupac's killer.
Mike Tyson's a boxer, man. You know what I'm saying? He all these dudes, trash. I'll be hearing them all saying all that old tough guy shit. Them dudes are rappers and boxers. They ain't about that life, dude. You know what I'm saying? They need to stay in their fucking place, dude. You know damn well you don't want to see this. You know what I'm saying? That's it. I'm trained to go.
Goofy motherfucker.
I don't know about him.
Everybody take another look at the world's dumbest criminal. I don't know about him. I'm trained to go. Stupid. You heard DJ Vlad. DJ Vlad said that Mike Tyson made a statement saying, just give me a few minutes in a room with the person that took Tupac's life. He started laughing. Oh, he don't want to see me. So if Mike Tyson said that he want to get a few seconds in a room with a person that killed Tupac's life, and your response is he don't want to see me, so what you're saying is that you took Tupac's life. He essentially told on himself, bro. Like, dumb, man. That's what I love about criminals. They're so stupid. Dumb. Anyway, he was indicted September 30th. So we just waiting to see how this trial is going to play out. I'm going to keep my eye on the media to see how the trial plays out. What we know so far is this big dummy is being charged with one count of murder with a deadly weapon in the murder of Tupac. We know that his bail has been denied. And we know now for a fact who took such a loved, caring, talented, iconic, and prolific figure off the face of the planet for really, really no reason.
Mercy and sympathy for everything, from the animals to the whales to fur to everything except us, your youth, the ones who you've had given no attention to, who become adults with no compassion. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you walk by a street and you was walking on concrete and you saw a rose growing out of concrete, even if it had messed up petals and it was a little, to the side, you would marvel at just seeing a rose grow through concrete. So why is it that when you see some ghetto kid grow out of all of the dirtiest circumstances and he can talk and he can sit across from you, make you smile, make you cry, make you laugh, all you can talk about is my dirty rose, my dirty stems, and how I'm leaning crooked to the side. You can't even see that I came up out of that.
I want to end this content by saying rest in peace to Tupac Amaru Shakur. He was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful soul. And his life was so unnecessarily snuffed out for a very frivolous reason. It just shows the lack of concern and respect for human life that some people have. So I want to say rest in peace to him, and I want to say that he's made such an impact. He made such an impact in his short tenure here on Earth.